Good morning or afternoon or so. Uh, I received some feedback for my last video, and a lot of it had to do with a dog that was in the background but not shown. This is my brother's dog. Her name is Holly. She is a very, very good girl, and it is not easy to show her on this camera. Yeah, and it's not easy to get her within view. I can't keep this on forever, but here is Holly. If she knew what was on the other end, she would probably want to greet and or lick you. You can go now, Holly. You're a good girl. Here, you can have this for your trouble. Okay, so I did say that I was going to be doing Article 1 of the Republican Platform. I'm going to turn this light off since I don't need to illuminate the dog anymore. It's been a little bit since I read the whole thing from cover to cover, and I was imagining Article 1 to be a lot shorter than it is. I guess because, the different parts of it, they do kind of run together. And Article 1 is responsibility in government. Now, you can imagine what a Republican might say about, responsibility in government. So, I will be doing the first 3 sections of it only, and that's just because it is a lot of material. Oh gosh, you always have something in your throat right as you go live or start recording something. So, yeah. If you know me, you know why this mug is not a surprise at all. I've lived in Boise all my life. So, Section 1 is fiscal responsibility. Now, it should not be a mystery or surprise that these parts of the platform are in the platform. A lot of this is inherently Republican stuff. So I'll just read through and comment, but basically, if you disagree with any of this, it's not that I will call you un-Republican, but I would imagine you would need to do a little bit of self-reflection, I guess I would say. I wouldn't kick you out of a party necessarily over disagreement on one of the finer points of these. So, subsection A, starting with that. The Idaho Republican Party recognizes that all government is financed by taxing its citizens. We believe the size and cost of government, as well as the national debt, must be reduced. Now, that in and of itself, it's touching a lot. And I'm amazed that we have to say that first sentence in there, and I imagine that when that sentence was first put in the platform, it wasn't necessarily necessary. But it's 2023, and there's an alarming and growing amount of people who either never thought about it or have some sort of strange idea otherwise that government isn't somehow taxed by its financed by taxing its citizens. It's one of the core principles of the Republican Party at large is reducing government, and the size of government and cost of government are rolled up into that. Not only that, but our sovereignty is threatened when we have a national debt. Now, that to the uneducated ear might sound like something a little bit going a little farther than just simply Republican, but no, that's honestly the truth, is that owing money to some outside faction, factor, or entity is a bit of a problem, especially if they ever collect on that debt. The next part is, well, this should not be a surprise either. We believe Social Security must be stabilized, diversified, and privatized to allow expansion of individual retirement options. Now, this one is obviously going to resonate more with a lot of the older generation. And I'm 38. It is currently Wednesday, April 5th, 2023. I'm currently 38 right now, and I've never exactly been under the impression that I will be getting Social Security, and I imagine that ever since I formed that view on it, that I would not be that it's kind of getting worse. So with Social Security right now, and so not only am I just simply not going to have it, but you know what? A lot of parts of Social Security, especially with what's being doled out these days, that's a big glaring hole in a few different ways. So we definitely need to stabilize that, and diversifying would be a legitimate tactic to take in trying to do that. And I'm not up on exactly the issues of privatization of it, but I trust good friends of mine on that. The next subsection, subsection C, we believed in a balanced budget and support congressional action to pass a balanced budget amendment. I believe that they are talking about national stuff because it's already a part of Idaho law, and I think the Idaho Constitution, that our books are supposed to be balanced. The government of the state of Idaho is supposed to is not supposed to be operating on debt. At least I think that's the phrase. Anyway, subsection D, we believe the unnecessary growth of government has negative impact on both the conduct of business and our individual lives. That is absolutely true, and in fact I challenge anyone to say otherwise. We endorse the review of all government programs and encourage the assumption by private enterprise or local government where appropriate and workable. The private market, free enterprise should be the preference, and when you can't do that, at least a much more close government, closer to the people kind of thing. A small government, a local government thing. Programs which are not cost effective or have outlived their usefulness should be terminated. That's a very Republican thing, and that's that thing I want to say every time. If you don't think that this is a Republican thing, well, I think you need to self-reflect and be honest with yourself on where you differ from Republican ideals. And the thing is that as Republicans, at least I don't want to use that phrase, but at least along real Republicans, though, is that you absolutely, if there is a government that has outlived its usefulness, it absolutely should go away. Of course, there is the old saying that there's nothing as permanent as a temporary government program. And that's the sad reality, is that we still got things, going from like the late 1800s, in fact, like pre-income tax programs that should have gone away and were intended to go away and never did. And the last part of this section, we expect the government entity which mandates a program to provide the funding for its implementation. And I'll go one further than that. There should be some sort of intrinsic justification for any government program, and there should be fewer government programs, obviously. And this just goes back to operating on debt, is that we should know how we're going to pay for something before we do it. I don't think I'm being too radical when I say that. I'm definitely being much more of a mainstream Republican when I say that. Now, the next part is taxation. Now, taxation has a lot to do with everything we just talked about, but these things specifically are spelled out in the next subsection taxation. Now, also, I'm aware that things are being cut off in the video. I'm sorry. It's just that I can't be looking at the program monitor every time that I'm also looking at this. So I'm going to try to keep that stuff near the top, but I'm sorry, and the thing is that this whole document is, of course, available on the Idaho Republican Party website, and so it's not like I'm covering up information that is otherwise unavailable. So, taxation, it starts with subsection A. We support lower federal, state, and local taxes. High taxes are a burden on business, families, and individuals. That's pretty much, a couple of things from the last section just combined and reworded a little bit. This should not be this should not be a secret Republican idea. No, this is very much out there. This is very much a Republican thing. We believe that tax reductions can be achieved by cutting spending on every level, federal, state, local. We believe that lower taxes will result in the increased revenue to the government as the private sector will thrive. And that's very much the principle of just simply getting out of people's way. And the government should be getting out of people's way by default. The only reasons why government should be impeding something is if they're doing something to harm somebody else or generally impede society, like with like preventing crimes, things like that. Not when they not requiring useless permits and things of that nature. There's a lot of bureaucracy that gets in the way, and I really hope that that's not a news to anyone. Unchecked government, and especially the rather onerous kinds, are absolutely are a net problem. Are a net loss for this country. In general. The private sector will thrive, and that means generally everybody thrives when the private sector thrives, even government employees, when that happens, which there shouldn't be quite as many government employees as there are right now. Subsection C, we believe Idaho's tax structure to be predictable, fair, and balanced, and that the combination of our income, sales, and property taxes will continue to provide a stable, dependable source of income for governmental needs. This is another one of those things where this is just bland Republicanism. This isn't even really all that radical. I don't see why that's entirely disagreeable from a Republican point of view. D, we support true government transparency that allows the public to review all local, state, and federal government expenditures, contracts, and audits online. And, we support uniform accounting systems that allow taxpayers to compare and analyze government spending trends. We should be allowed to see nearly everything that a government does. And that's, of course, included. We should be able to, the government is supposed to be working for the people, the voters, the tax base, the citizens. It shouldn't be the other way around, but a lot of people have the attitude the other way around. Even some who call themselves Republicans, but no, government is supposed to be providing for the common defense of the people. The government is supposed to be doing things that people can't do. And when people can do, government should not be getting in the way. And not only that, but government should not be getting in the way of the people looking to see what they're doing. Otherwise, that's just cover-ups and obstruction. Subsection E. We believe that Idaho citizens should not or shall not be taxed for federally mandated health care. That's a whole nother discussion in and of itself, but bottom line is that's a Republican idea. If you have some other personal idea or personal belief. I guess that's fine, but I that you know it is fine to deviate from the platform, at least one way or another. But the harder that you disagree, and upon the multiple things in which you disagree, well, then you're farther and farther away, and maybe you should really do some self-searching if you think that if you're away from the standard of being Republican. Maybe you're not a Republican. You should think about that. We believe voters' approval should be required to. Well, this is subsection F, by the way. We believe voters' approval should be required prior to approval of debt-financed city project. Municipal laws that allow public dollars to be converted to private use and government entities to compete against the private sector or divert public money to special projects without support of the taxpayer must be repealed. Yeah, get rid of it. If that's what's going on, get rid of it. Again, another straight up and down Republican idea. I don't think I'll ever vote for anything, for any municipal entity to do anything debt financed at all. I've learned the hard way of the problems with debt. I'll just say that. We support subsection G. We support the total abolition of inheritance taxes. Yeah, there's not really a whole lot that the government is providing for a person when inheritance of one kind or another is being transferred from a progenitor to their progeny, as it were. Say a mom and a dad, they give their now adult daughter or adult son a large sum of money or some land or a house or something. The government really should not be involved in that because they provide no real benefit to the voter or the tax base or the citizens or what have you. They don't provide any real benefit in that situation. There's not really a whole lot that the government is doing there that the citizen can't do for themselves. Subsection H. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm below the halfway point again. I'm sorry. Subsection H. We support a comprehensive overhaul of the federal tax system requiring universal participation. Yeah. And you know what? On that one, I'll disagree with you, but hey, you know what? I'll listen. If you have some other idea, well, this is currently the standard of what a Republican is. I don't think you'll get a convention of delegates to change that one. But you know what? If you really feel that strongly about that one, make your case. And of course, subsection I, the last subsection in this part, we support the appeal. Let me start that over. We support the repeal of the 16th Amendment to the of the Constitution of the United States of America. Well, that's in. I don't think I'll need to show it on the screen. But the 16th Amendment, all that one is just it allows for federal income tax. That's literally all that amendment is. So there's no mystery. So there's no mystery there that a Republican might want to do away with that one. That's not even all that hardcore of an idea either. I mean, government should be more of the attitude of taxing per service rendered. And maybe there's some cases where that maybe shouldn't be the case and whatnot. But you know what? Have that out. Discuss that. Tell the voters. Have a good discussion on it. So Section 3 is a shorter one. And that's going to be the last section that I do today. Now, subsection A of the Reform of Congress, it says the Idaho Republican Party supports an overhaul of the legislative process in Congress to allow one more time for members to study legislation, two more opportunity for citizens to testify at hearings, and three, debate on here I'm reading down the page then without bringing it up. And three, debate on legislation before the members rather than speeches in empty chambers for the C-SPAN audience. Four, objections to the inclusion of unrelated subject matter in a single bill. That's one thing that we really pride ourselves on Idaho and in Idaho with our state legislation, and it's mostly followed. Now, there was this special legislative session recently which definitely did not follow this, and then Brad Little hypocritically vetoed something recently where he says too many different things were in it. Like, wait a minute, you just... Anyway, but that's just not, me spouting off. This is the platform saying something about it. 4, objections to the inclusion of unrelated subject matter in a single bill. No, just 5, more oversight and transparency in the earmark process and an end to abuse and use of earmarks for financial gain to a member. That's quite literally, corruption, doing that kind of thing. So of course we want an end to it. 6, and more orderly process for the consideration of legislation similar to that of the Idaho legislature. Well, yeah, we like our system. We think it is best, and so yes, we want to be using it elsewhere. And yes, I want to know if you have some other idea on that, because the idea that's on the page right here, that one sounds a lot more Republican. But you know what? We can have that discussion. Now, the next subsection is subsection B. It says Idaho Republicans will continue to lead the fight to reduce the growth of government bureaucracy and promote private enterprise and individual initiative in the marketplace as the solution to our domestic policy challenges. Well, that's, again, really bland Republicanism. That's not even all that deep cutting. I mean, of course the market should provide, and of course government shouldn't be the automatic source of fixing a problem, as it were. Anyway, I could go a lot longer on that one. And of course, the last subsection that we're going to be talking about today is, of course, subsection C. We support the restoration of the Constitution's checks and balances that protects the rights and sovereignty of the states by repealing the 17th Amendment. Okay, so this one might not, so a lot of people might not be a whole lot familiar with what that's even talking about. So way back in the day, it was thought it might be better if there was a direct election of senators and whatnot. And, well, the thing is that that's turned out to be a very bad thing, because it's just feeding the corruption and it's created this cycle of us just sending somebody to Washington getting and then getting Washington to just feed a bunch of money back down, and then in that whole cycle of things. Now, that's a system with a few different perverse incentives in it. Not only that, but it relies on the notion that we're basically being bribed with our own money, and that's not a good thing. The way that it used to happen is that the state legislatures would send people to would elect and send people to Congress, and so that way, instead of only at a single point in a general election every few years, the state legislature could call them back to their state capitals and call them to the carpet. You can't recall a federal election, by the way. But before the 17th Amendment, you totally could. You could keep people accountable. And that's a whole nother thing. Now, if you want to talk about that in the comments or what have you, or just have a discussion with me about that one, if you think otherwise, go ahead. Let's have that discussion. But this is currently the standard of what a Republican is. I keep saying that in different ways, and it's the end of the video already. But next video, I'm probably just going to be closing out section 1. So there's 4, 5. Oh, there's a lot of 5, and then there's 6. So yeah, I'll be closing out Article 1 with the next video. And I wish everyone well. And sorry you didn't get to see much of the dog. I don't necessarily mean to cause a fight with these videos either. I'm just literally laying out the literal standard of what a Republican is. With that, God bless you. Have a good day.